Hello and welcome to Season 14, Episode 12 of Unlimited Opinions. I'm Adam Bishop.
I'm Mark Bishop.
We are, of course, reading Russell Kirk's The Conservative Mind, this time talking about Chapter 12, the penultimate chapter. So this is the second to last episode of this season. Talking about critical conservatism. Babbitt, More, and Santayana are the figures of discussion for today. What do you think of this chapter?
It was okay. I had heard of Babbitt before. I had not heard of the others, and I didn't like the pot shots he took at the end against Silent Cal. Calvin Coolidge, that he was like a mediocrity.
Yeah, interesting. I don't really know anything about Coolidge, so.
He did a really good job of balancing the budget and getting spending under control, and it was actually a pretty excellent, in my opinion, conservative president.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. This author didn't like him. Now it calls into question everything he's written about everything else in my mind.
That's good. That's good. I guess I should mention we are in person for these last couple of episodes.
Well, we were in person before. We were just in different locations.
That.
I am still in personhood.
Well, yes, of course. We are both together in the same room recording this episode. We're not recording it over Zoom.
Yes, and my mostly deaf dog is outside and
barking.
insistently barking about coming inside.
Let's see if anybody else lets him in. I don't think anybody will.
At some point, your youngest brother will get fed up with everyone else.
Well, he left.
Oh, no.
He's not here.
Oh, where's he
So it's just
at?
the younger brother. He went to the gym, I think.
Oh, okay.
So it's just the younger brother who probably is
He will
purposefully ignoring
he
it.
will
Yes.
not do. Well, I didn't know what to do.
Yes, exactly. So maybe he'll be let in. We'll see.
He will not. No, I don't think it'll be loud enough for the listener to hear.
No,
But,
probably not.
That'll be enough to annoy me.
Yes, that's good. That'll put you in a really good mood. Well, we are, of course, reading this chapter in Critical Conservatism, as we mentioned here. As always, he sort of talks about, what is sort of the political climate that we're looking at here.
Well, what did you think?
I enjoyed it. I thought this was pretty good. Yeah, I enjoyed all three thinkers.
Really?
I did, surprisingly.
I
think
am
these
very
passages-
surprised. I was reading it thinking that you would not like the third one.
He was all right. He wasn't my favorite, but I did enjoy a lot of his ideas. I have problems with it because he's like the whole materialism stuff that he goes down, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Okay. Starts off with Babbitt.
Yes. Well, it starts off with the introductory section,
that's
of
true.
course, which I was going to talk about.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's all right. I like how he always sets up like what is sort of the enemy figure at this time, and he describes it as John Dewey as sort of the point of attack of sort of the culmination of the liberalism that's happening in the early 20th century in America.
Yeah, when you first read like Dewey, about Dewey, it sounds great. At first, to organize your thoughts and almost like a mechanical view of the world. But then you follow it to its logical conclusion. It's not great.
Yeah.
That kind of materialism type stuff. Yeah, utilitarianism.
Yeah, that's what he says. He says on 365, I like this description. He says, the belligerent, expansive, and naturalistic tendencies of the era found their philosophical apologist in John Dewey. No philosopher's style is more turgid, but Dewey's postulates, for all that, are simple and quite comprehensible. He commenced with a thoroughgoing naturalism, like Diderot's and Holbach's, denying the whole realm of spiritual values. Nothing exists but physical sensation, and life has no aims but physical satisfaction. So very materialist, very, like he says, naturalist philosophy. There's nothing beyond just what is in sort of the natural world. Then he goes into his whole pragmatism and things like that. He capped the structure with a Marxist economics, looking forward to proletarian ascendancy and a future devoted to efficient material production for the satisfaction of the masses, a planner state. Every radicalism since 1789 found its place in John Dewey's system, and this destructive intellectual compound became prodigiously popular in short order among that distraught crowd of the semi-educated and among people of more serious pretensions, et cetera, et cetera. Yes. I just like that description. Like he just brought about, or brought together pretty much every leftist, every radical position you can think of, and just sort of crammed it all into one philosophy.
Yeah.
I think Noam Chomsky does very much the same thing, I'm realizing.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing now. It's like in my lifetime, there's a lot of these so-called thinkers that just kind of push everything together and try to figure out a way, even if they're inconsistent, because it's like a political ideology in search of a philosophy. You know?
Yeah.
It's like, well, I like these things and those things and there's other things that don't seem to go together. I'm just going to try to force them into some sort of consistent grand theory.
Right.
Yeah. It's frustrating. It's very annoying.
Very frustrating. Yeah. It's incredibly annoying.
But it's really, then 5 years later, they'll be singing a different tune when the tides turn or the winds change.
Yeah, that is true.
That's basically my experience.
Yeah, I like the way...
I can't say specifically about Chomsky because I don't know the guy.
Yeah. Well, that's
We've
all right.
never met.
You don't need to, I don't think. He's still alive.
Isn't he really
Remarkably.
old?
Yeah, he's 97 or 98, I think.
Now, he was like an Epstein Files, wasn't he, Chomsky? I think he was.
Yeah,
a whole bunch of, he was like on the plane. And,
Yeah, that's not too
but
surprising.
I don't know. I don't know about the Epstein stuff. I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, I don't know. It's either, but I also don't think he killed himself.
No, definitely not.
So if he didn't kill himself, man, that's hard to do. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not impossible to pull off a hit in prison, but it's some heavy lifting from powerful people as opposed to like the mob, right. or the or organized criminal enterprise gangs, right. like violent criminals, which maybe somebody knew somebody. I guess.
Have you seen like the AI videos where it's like Hillary Clinton herself showing up to the jail cell? It's like, that's.
I don't think that's necessary.
No.
Yeah.
Yes. But yes, that's Dewey, I suppose. I don't know. Anything else to say about that sort of introductory section?
No.
Should we move on to Irving Babbitt?
Yes.
I thought he was very interesting. These three figures, as he kind of mentions, these aren't really political figures. They're intellectuals. They're professors. And I kind of like that.
A little bit better than the last chapter.
Yes, for sure. The last couple chapters is just these politicians, failing to really accomplish anything. It seems like these guys actually have some good ideas worth mentioning here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, he starts off this section on Irving Babbitt. Says, as if they recognized in him their most formidable adversary, writers of the left have attacked Irving Babbitt with a vituperation somewhat startling when one remembers that this abuse is directed towards a contemplative Harvard professor of comparative literature. Yeah. So like for all, accounts, right, he should really have been somebody who kind of went under the radar, right, this just random professor of literature. But because he was a conservative professor, right. Which I guess was starting to become, really... far afield in these days, right? He became a big target of attack.
Well, it kind of reminded me of like Charlie Kirk, who, when it really came down to it, most of what he was saying was pretty anodyne, pretty mainstream Christian thought from 20 years ago. Yeah. But the anger and the vitriol, as an example, or even, like Trump on the immigration issue, which still amazes me that the Democrats completely jumped the shark, as they say in Happy Days Land. That's a Happy Days reference, by the way. Yeah, jumped the shark. Do you know what? I've
heard the phrase. I didn't know.
You don't know the etymology of it?
I don't.
Well, Happy Days. Do you know the show with the Fonz?
No.
You don't know Happy Days?
No, I don't know Happy Days.
Oh my goodness.
That's probably like at least 25 years before my time.
Well, yeah, it was a 1970s show, but it was set in the 1950s. And it starred, what's the name of the actor? He was the weak-willed coach in The Waterboy. Henry Winkler. Oh, okay. Henry Winkler played this cool guy who rides a motorcycle, Fonzie, Arthur Fonzarelli. And what's his name?
Okay, I think I've heard of the show. Yeah, I've never seen it.
So he lived above a garage, the home of the Cunninghams. Mm-hmm. Their son, one of their sons, was the main character, was Richie Cunningham, who is, the name escapes me, was a little kid on the Andy Griffith Show, became a famous director, redheaded guy.
I have no idea.
Oh my God. I can't believe I'm having such a hard time. I could picture his face. Anyway, big, number one show. Mm-hmm. And it's, anyway. But as the seasons went on, it got more and more silly, and Fonzie became less and less cool. And so they ended up going on like a family vacation, and for some reason Fonzie goes too. There's always a reason. So they're running out of story ideas, so they go on this. And so they were going, somehow Fonzie got challenged to water ski, and there's a ramp. I see. There's a ramp. He has
to jump over a shark.
He's going to jump over the shark. It was really, really exciting and scary. But after that, it was never the same because Fonzie was kind of a girl about it. Like he was scared. It was just so silly. And then I'm trying to remember what he wore. It was shorts, but I think still his leather jacket maybe. But the saying is he jumped the shark, meaning it's like it was never the same. It was cool. And then for whatever reason, it was just not cool anymore.
Interesting.
Fonzie jumped the shark.
Yes.
And so that's what that always refers to is that there was something, because Fonzie was super cool. He had this thing where he'd stand next to a jukebox and he'd hit it and it would play a song.
Oh, yes.
And he'd snap his fingers and two girls would come over one on each arm and he'd walk out with them because he was a ladies' man. But once he did that, he jumped the shark. He was no longer cool.
Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah. So that's what that's all about. What was I referring to, jumping the shark?
Charlie Kirk? Professors? Conservative professors?
Yeah, but why did I say jump the shark?
I really don't know.
Completely went down a different path.
You'll have to listen back to the episode.
I am shocked that you did not know of Happy Days. It's a funny little show.
I've definitely heard of it. Yeah.
I know, but you didn't know it.
Yes.
Because, I know it. It spawned other shows, spin-offs. Joni Loves Chachi. Anyways.
Okay. Well, back to the book.
What was his name, the actor?
I have no idea.
Me crazy.
Yes. It'll come to you.
Why don't you take over for... Oh, I left my phone in the other room. I can't even look it up while we're talking.
Oh, that's a shame. But yeah, then he kind of goes into what is Irving...
He was also in a great movie, I think it might have been John Wayne's last movie, called The Shootist. And he played a young man who was enamored with the shoot. He was a dying gunfighter. Anyway.
Interesting.
Not John Wayne.
Yes.
Great movie with Lauren Bacall. Also Harry Morgan, who was in MASH. Do you know Harry Morgan?
I don't know Harry Morgan.
Really overacted in that movie. Did a terrible job.
Anyway.
And Jimmy Stewart was in it.
Oh, good.
Yeah. He was also in The Man Who Shot Liberty Vance with John Wayne. A great movie contemplating on what is a hero, about love and loss, and propaganda in early American Western history.
It's very interesting.
It's a great story.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that.
You will.
So Irving Babbitt, are we done?
Yeah.
Okay. He describes his philosophy essentially as this. He says the disciplinary arts of humanitas, that exercise of will which distinguishes man from beast, are dying of neglect in this era. Contemptuous of the realm of spirit which Buddha and Plato alike describe, modern man is corrupted by a gross naturalism, reducing all things to a single sensate level. So essentially, like all of his philosophy, everything that he wants to accomplish is sort of bringing back sort of the spiritual life, right? Bringing back an idea that there is more than just the material world. As you're moving through the earlier 20th century, right? This is just sort of vanishing. And he's really very much arguing in favor of recognizing that there's something more than just matter.
Yeah, I kept getting confused because he's criticizing humanitarianism, but he's a humanist.
Yes.
And I didn't really, I know that in this book there is a big difference, but I didn't know that there was a difference before. Like reading this, I was thinking, wasn't it kind of the same, similar thing? If you're a humanist, you believe in, the value of humanity, certainly, but I thought it was more like a non-spiritual value. But the way Babbitt the author explains Babbitt is he talks about a spiritual value or a higher plane value of humans. Dualism.
Exactly. Yes.
That reminds me, this talk about this reminds me of the Police song where their lyrics are, "We are all spirits in a material world."
Interesting. Yeah. Very interesting.
The Police had oddly philosophical music.
Huh. Fascinating.
One of their albums, which I have downstairs, is titled Ghost in the Machine.
Huh, there you go. Very Cartesian.
Correct.
Thank you. Sure.
What? I'm bringing it back home.
Yes. No, you are. You are. Well, speaking of French philosophers, he says on 369, he says, Rousseau, first among the theorists of radical democracy, the most eminent contemner of civilization, gave the wrong answers to the right questions, right? Sort of trying to answer.
It's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think so. He says he denied the duality of human experience and relied upon the natural law, the regime of the senses, as the means to general happiness. And essentially what, Babbitt sort of goes on to argue is that sort of all of the sort of modern progressive ideas are very downstream of this idea, right? We're just sort of continuing along this path further into these ideas that everything's just material, denying any sort of spiritual reality.
Yes.
And I like what he says. He says, if social reform is substituted for self-reform, emotional anarchy presently undoes every project of the humanitarian.
Yep.
So what Babbitt keeps, coming back to, and I think is a very, very good point, is that all the social reform in the world won't do anything if you're not encouraging people to essentially like live with virtue, right? You can give the people all the power you want, but if they're not good people, then giving them the power actually just brings you backwards, and it's just going to lead to worse places. You're not actually making progress. You're regressing because you're not encouraging the people to do good things with the power that they have.
Yeah, and I like this quote at the bottom, I don't know if you went past it, 367, where he says, without this inner principle of restraint, man can only oscillate violently between opposite extremes. I think there's a lot of truth to that. Like, I kind of mentioned earlier about people changing, just modifying their what appears to be their core beliefs based upon political whims or the changing tides of public opinion. And I think if you don't have a core moral framework, I think you're destined to do that. It's inevitable. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah. I agree. I like what he says about the general will, too. Sort of moving on to page 370.
You're skipping ahead. Good for you.
I apologize.
Yes.
But he says, upon the ruins of the medieval era of government which Machiavelli and his followers undermined, Rousseau erected a kind of quasi-religious political contrivance supplied with his own myths from his idyllic imagination, inspired by the notion that pity has primacy among human emotions. The sentimental doctrine of the general will, which Rousseau produced to mortar the system together from the beginning, was full of menace. And this is a quote from Babbitt. It says, by this device, Rousseau gets rid of the problem that has chiefly preoccupied political thinkers in the English tradition. How, namely, to safeguard the freedom of the individual or of minorities against a triumphant and despotic majority. That's the end of the quote. He says, Rousseau's fallacious new dualism, that which postulates the citizen in his private capacity and the citizen as a member of the community, may provide the apology for a tyranny more crushing than anything Rousseau himself denounced.
Yes.
Right? Because you can say, well, I'm just acting on behalf of the general will, or these political reforms. It's just the operation of the general will. Well, I'm acting on behalf of the people, and this is the whole people. This is the general will of society. And if you're a minority group that's opposed to that, well, suck it. You're opposed to the general will. So I think it's a very, very good insight that this is a very dangerous ideology to put forward.
Yes. Good summary.
Thank you.
I was interested. He kind of moves on from that to talk about what he's in favor of. So that's his excellent criticism of Rousseau, one of them. But I was surprised that there were references to Buddha, and Plato. Yeah. That basically the talking about justice and I think he starts off describing what he considers work. Like what is the work that you should do in order to seek justice, or I guess the definition was justice was very similar to, or maybe you just took it from Plato about to each person what they're what the hell, you know what I mean.
Justice is giving to each his due.
Yes, thank you, and that people should do what they are created to do. So everybody has kind of a role to play, and everybody has their own work cut out for them. I'm obviously paraphrasing. That's not Plato, but mentioning how Buddha and Plato are always talk about how you have to work on yourself, and that it's a labor of spirit, self-reform to bring nature. Bring justice to your soul into your community, because I don't know a lot about Buddhism, but I know there's a lot of that where it's just you're just trying to focus on improving yourself and how you think and feel and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I guess it's really his Harvard professor rather than politician, right? So we're looking at Eastern perspectives on this idea and arguing that Plato and Buddha are alike here. I like this quote too at the bottom of 372 onto 373, kind of building off of that. He says, to proclaim equality on some basis that requires no such working will result ironically. For example, this country committed itself in the Declaration of Independence to the doctrine of natural equality. The type of individualism that was thus encouraged has led to monstrous inequalities, and with the decline of traditional standards to the rise of a raw plutocracy. The remedy for such a failure of the man at the top does not lie, as the agitator would have us believe, in inflaming the desires of the man at the bottom, nor again in substituting for real justice some phantasmagoria of social justice. Yes. So the idea of like, well, if you're just sort of proclaiming by fiat everybody is equal, and then not also backing up, again, like we mentioned, like the idea of the virtue and work that is necessary for every individual to work at achieving justice, well, then the equality that you're sort of just proclaiming doesn't actually exist. It has no basis to stand on. You're just sort of saying it, and that does not just make it so.
Yeah, and he says this, Babbitt, the next paragraph on 373, every man must find his happiness in work or not at all. I don't know if that's true. Mm-hmm. It seems like an overstatement of it. But kind of going back to what I was talking about before about, and he mentions later that, the only real peace is spiritual peace.
Right.
And, the humanitarian's failure is a product of their ignorance of man's ethical will, because they're not talking about that need to improve your spiritual side and your ethics. So anyway, I thought that was interesting, but I was thinking, well, I think he might be overstating it a little bit. And then, I really didn't agree with going back on page 272. He's talking about it says any civilization must relieve certain individuals the necessity for working with their hands, so that they may participate in that leisure which is an indispensable preparation for leadership. I don't know if I mean, I guess I agree with that in part, but I think the best leaders have, for some period of time, worked with their hands or had some manual labor. The ones that haven't had too much leisure and are too intellectual are the ones that are dangerous, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it is the case that, if you are going to have, the president can't be, working a day job, doing something else, with his hands. I think that's more.
Well, I think he's talking about preparing people for that leadership before they're in the leadership. Once you're in the leadership role, you're occupied. Yeah. But he's, basically he's, but it's like our current university system where we send people off for 4 years of leisure and partying.
Right.
And I don't know. I mean, I like I said, I kind of agree with that in part. I think you need to have if you're working as a manual laborer in a farm field all day, 7 days a week, he's 100% right. You're not going to be able to do the work he's talking about, which is spiritual and intellectual improvement, because you just could be all consumed by physical labor. Right. So if that's all he's saying, then I agree with it.
Yeah, there's a good book by Joseph Pieper, who is a 20th century German Catholic philosopher. It's called Leisure, the Basis of Culture. And essentially what he argues is that for like modern education, or really any education at all, to ever have existed, you needed to have that leisure, right? But not in the sense of like just laying around doing whatever, the leisure, like partying all day, but like a contemplative leisure is like vital for a culture to exist. And that I agree with. And I think that's more of what Babbitt is saying here. Not that,
Well, I think we've gotten to the point where we have a lot of people have never actually worked with their hands.
Yes.
And I mean, like I've never been a laborer with my hands, so to speak. But I stocked shelves, like at a Sam's Club on a night shift. That was not easy labor. And I think that, you have a different perspective as you get older when you've had an experience where there's like a certain, there's a certain almost fear of hopelessness when you're in a dead end job, and it provides meaning for professional success later, or freedom from that I would never have appreciated what I have now if I hadn't gone through that, because I was doing that when I was an undergrad as a mediocrely performing student, not living up to my potential, as I often heard throughout my entire youth. And then but I was just studying what I wanted to study, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I thought, this could be my life. I will just be working retail all my life. And I was not making any money. And that, and there were a lot of people with me, like that. Although I was in college, so I kind of had this distant light of hope, where like most of the people I was working with on the night shift were not in school, and they were a lot older than me, and that was their job, and you'd feel it, with them, and it was kind of funny. They were like rooting for me, because they're like, well, Bishop's gonna get out of here, Bishop's going to college, and it was kind of funny because not everybody liked me. But most did. Yeah. It was a good crew.
I had similar stuff. I mean, I was never working for as long as you did, I don't think. And anyway, it was mostly like summer jobs for me.
Right.
But I mean, my first job was, working fast food Italian at Fazoli's. And I was working the customer service desk at the Lowe's. And you do have that sense of like, it's good that you won't be here for forever, right? That's sort of the opinion of those employees who have been there for 25 years, where it's like, they do good work, and it's, not bashing the people who are in those positions, but it's like, there's that sense of like they're rooting for you to not have to do that for the rest of your life.
Right. And, it was, anyway, I think there's some value to that because I think there's a lot of people in our political leadership in America that have never really experienced that. That's why I kind of like I like J.D. Vance in that sense, because he had a really rough go, much harder than I did, and a certain amount of hopelessness. Where he I'm sure when he was a teenager, he was thinking he was never getting out of that situation,
right?
And so everything else is like a gift from God. Of course, you can end up thinking that you're ordained to be the ruler of the world, which is a different problem. But anyway, so. I'm sorry, I went on a completely different tangent. But if all he's saying is we have to have some leisure time in order to cultivate effective leaders, I think I agree with that. Spot on.
Yeah,
not limited.
Yeah, I like what he says towards the bottom of 375. He says, we must purge ourselves of the notion that pure equality is consonant with liberty and humility.
Yeah.
The need for restoration of standards in our life means that we shall have to ascertain some ethical center. The ethical state is possible, human nature being susceptible to right example. But our ethical center must be more than our current adulation of service. The real leader is no mere humanitarian. His sanctions come from will and conscience. It's not enough just to like kind of vaguely do the right things because you think other people will perceive them as being the right things. Like you have to actually believe these things. I thought it was really interesting. Towards the end, just one last thought on Babbitt. He talks about the plane of grace, right?
Yes.
Sort of the Christian life. He says, traditionally the Christian has associated his liberty and his faith in a higher will with grace. But Babbitt cannot persuade himself to clamber to that crag. He is not really sure it exists, and he endeavors to express his system in terms of work, ethical work, the activity of the higher nature of man, as distinguished from communion with God.
Yeah.
I thought that's interesting.
I thought it was almost inconsistent. I mean, how do you justify this belief in some sort of higher purpose when, I mean, what are you answering to, and what created that higher purpose?
It reminded me a lot of Jordan Peterson, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like this is basically Jordan Peterson's
That's a good
sort
point.
of philosophy, and you can pull from all of these different sort of world religions and talking about self-improvement and self-control. But I mean, I have the same opinion of Babbitt here as I do of Jordan Peterson, that his system isn't complete. Yeah. That he isn't sort of fully grasping everything. He doesn't have that sort of highest level that is necessary for the whole thing.
Yeah, and at the same time, I think they're both valuable. You know,
I agree.
they're. I agree with the criticism of it, but they're not wrong.
Right,
like they get all the main things right, but it's like it's kind of funny. And I think Jordan Peterson's ill now.
Yeah, I've heard that.
But he had, these drugs people take. That was the problem, that he was having anxiety attacks and depression when his wife got ill, and he was on benzos, whatever benzos are. It's a prescription medication. He was prescribed. But then he was having to up the dose, and it's like impossible to get off those. So he ends up going to some clinic, I think in Russia. That's when the first time he was out of commission for like a year, I think.
Wow.
And it's from what I understand, it's really, really hard to get yourself off those drugs, and the withdrawal can kill you. And so I don't know if he's having an issue with complications from that, but I understand he's having a tough go of it. You know what's interesting on that subject is Kamala.
Kamala Harris. Yeah.
Her stepdaughter.
I saw that the video where she's talking about SSRIs.
She's been prescribed SSRIs since she was like 14 or 15 or something. And I always forget about how many kids have been medicated, and I guess I should leave aside how horrible it is that you would put your kid on those medicines that young. But my God, I don't know if those people will ever be able to get off of that because it affects your brain chemistry while your brain is developing. And I really feel bad for her, and I hope she can get some help and get off those damn things.
Yeah, I saw that video that you're talking about, where it's really fascinating because I think she's like talking like live through her thoughts of this, and she's posted to social media. She's like, it kind of just occurred to me, like I've been on these SSRIs for. She said like 15 years. Yeah. Like she probably doesn't even remember what it's like to not be on them.
Well, I think that's why, I don't know if that's what she said or if I read that, and there's like a trend of kids are now adults in their 20s, and they want to find out, well, what would it feel like to be quote unquote normal? I mean, not on the drugs, but they're having a hell of a time getting off them.
Yeah, that's what she says. She's like, if I'm off them for like a day, if I miss a dose, it's like I'm addicted to these things weirdly.
100% she's addicted. I mean, of course you are.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just horrible.
Yes.
And I think, of course, that gets to our society and a sickness in our society where we just want to medicate our kids and ourselves to just take a pill and solve the problems. And I've noticed for forever, and of course it's one of my little rants when watching TV commercials, where the commercials are always like, this product is a drug. And I'm not, aside from all the drugs that are advertised, but like the cars used to be advertised as, this is a great car. But then they switched over to, this car will make you feel better.
Right.
And all, cereal will make you feel better. And it got down to the children's food and children's toys. It's all about, this is how you attain happiness and contentment.
Yeah.
And I think, of course, you don't have religion, you don't have belief in higher ideals at all. And, it's very corrosive, and we need more people like these conservative thinkers. Trying to get back to the book, to remind us, that's not how you get to happiness. It's not how you get justice. Yeah. Through a pill or through stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway,
anything else to say about Babbitt?
No. But I didn't know anything about this More guy. But he was born in Missouri.
Yes.
He was born in St. Louis. He graduated from WashU.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. I looked him up.
Wow, that's great.
I'm always interested in the Missouri connections.
Yes. Yeah. I like the opening paragraph of this. It says, on North Avenue in Cambridge once, Babbitt suddenly clenched his hands and exclaimed to Paul Elmer More, "Great God, man, are you a Jesuit in disguise?" Babbitt endeavored all his life to teach himself tolerance toward churches, but it was otherwise with More. And that far-ranging critic remarks, with something like a smile, "I have never been able to answer the question satisfactorily." That's interesting. That was a good little tidbit.
Yes.
But very similar, it seems, thinker to Babbitt. As he says at the bottom of 377, he says there's a stern continuity in his essays. He says the insistence that for our salvation in this world and the other, we must look to things of the spirit, accept the duality of human nature, remind ourselves that the present moment is of small consequence in the mysterious system of being. Essentially, again, remarking like we need to remember that there is a spiritual aspect to the world, that it isn't just the material here.
Yes. Well, and really critical of the dangers of modern society. And this quote, middle of 378, where he says, when the religious impulse is contracted to mere brotherhood of man, fratricide is not far distant. Okay. That's a pretty strong words, but not wrong.
Yes, no, I agree.
But he's the believer in the aristocracy. Isn't he?
Yes, yes.
I'm starting to come around to that way of thinking, but not in a formal sense. I don't think we should have a formal aristocracy where people are held off separately. But I think we inevitably have some sort of aristocracy, and we ought to just agree that there's going to be a hierarchy. And of course, Jordan Peterson would believe in hierarchy. With the lobsters. I don't know if you know the lobster thing. but I think they're and we have kind of like this, and I think let me finish my thought. I keep interrupting myself. We have an aristocracy, but in the last 10, 15, 20 years, we realized our aristocracy
really
are a bunch of fools.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know anything, and it's like one after another after another. And that's why they're saying, like the faith in our institutions is crumbling. Well, that's because you all suck.
Yeah.
Like our church failed us, when before you were born, was really when the controversy about the Catholic Church and and not just the molestations, not that there's any way to minimize that, but it was really in a way worse, the cover-ups. Of course, the cover-ups caused the multiplication of the victims because they just shifted these priests around and weren't anybody. And it was that kind of corruption. And then, the corruption in our local government, in our federal government, state government, and just like all aspects of everything. There are universities are a bunch of knuckleheads. I mean, is there a single institution? What's an institution in the United States that commands your respect now, currently?
Like how big of an institution do you like?
Let's start with any.
I mean, I like organizations that I am a part of.
Because you were a part of them?
No, not because because I think there are good institutions on a local level. Like I think the Hamilton School at UF I think is doing very good work, and they brought in some good people.
Brand new.
They have my trust.
Brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah, give it a couple of years.
And I enjoy like the student groups, the student Catholic groups that are around the church, which I mean have their problems.
Let's talk
campus,
about big institutions,
big institutions
that are national leaders in any area. I can't think of any.
Yeah,
I mean the bar associations, nope.
Yeah.
Law schools, nope. Universities, no. Governments now. But I agree with you. The closer it gets down to local, the more I have respect for them. Like so like our local, there are some local cities that I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
Some local cities I may not. It depends on the city or the political entity or whatever, and that really depends on the people that are there. But when you get into the big institutions, the big stuff, like even like professional sports, it's just like it's all so corrupted by money.
Yeah.
And
there's like some things where
difficult.
it's like publications where I'm like, well, if they put out something that is worth reading, like First Things.
Yes.
Right. I think like anything that's in the pages of First Things is worth reading.
Yeah.
But that's not like an institution with political power.
Yeah.
It is, I guess some political power insofar as it has an audience and the essays there.
That's
are
such
have
a
some
small
readers.
audience.
Right.
I mean,
right.
the readership of that is a subset of a subset of a subset. Probably.
So I think there's like some things like that where it is like specifically tailored, groups where it's like I will trust that they will put out something of quality.
Yeah.
But I don't think that extends to any big national body that is making any political decisions or recommendations for how to live people's lives.
Yeah. Like all the news networks, newspapers.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean,
it's
of course,
tough.
have respect and reverence for the Catholic Church, right?
Yes.
Sort of the big picture. But
But
again,
even that,
there's problems in local parishes and how they're exactly being run.
Or
and
the
things like
Vatican.
that.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
I have very little faith in the Vatican.
Yeah.
Like
in terms of like the bureaucracy and
correct.
things like that. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Yes. So anyway, getting back to my original point is, I think this More guy is onto something, and there's several of these thinkers that are summarized by Russell Kirk, and of course Russell Kirk clearly seems to believe in this aristocracy, and it certainly favors authors that wanted to limit the vote. I mean, he speaks favorably of all of them without really a hint of criticism.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm coming around to that point of view that there is an aristocracy. It's inevitable. And we need to kind of cultivate it on merit, and I don't, like I said, I don't mean to suggest that we would have a formal group of people that have more power than others.
Right.
But
that's kind of what he says.
Go ahead.
I like this quote, bottom of 379 on 380. He says, the Kant phrase that the cure of democracy is more democracy lies.
Yes.
The real cure must not be more but better democracy.
Yes.
Improvement never can come from the mass itself. It must be the work of natural aristocracy, which, quote, does not demand the restoration of inherited privilege or a relapse into the crude dominion of money. It is not synonymous with oligarchy or plutocracy. It calls rather for some machinery or some social consciousness which shall ensure both the selection from among the community at large of the best and the bestowal on them of power. It is the true consummation of democracy.
Yeah.
So it's exactly what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
It's not that we're going to install a formal oligarchy of this group of people, this hereditary lineage is going to rule everything from now on. But we have to bring about in sort of our local lives, right? That there is some natural selection process of these are the best people to make decisions for this community. It can't just be that everything is just voted on by the masses of people. Mm-hmm. Generally speaking, that's just going to make things worse, right? You have to select the best people from among the group and have them, make decisions. That's representative democracy, and we've kind of lost that notion.
Yeah, I mean, don't you think he's right about that?
Oh, absolutely, 100%.
I like the quote from the very next paragraph, which I think is a terribly accurate description of our current society. It's like a great old tree, our society has been dying at the top. The educated classes are in danger of turning traitors to the civilization which sustains them, deluded by humanitarianism, perhaps ignorant of their own proper duties. And isn't that that's a description of our entire establishment that has existed for my lifetime, and I think turning traitors to your civilization is really where we're at now. Mm-hmm. It's and I don't know. It's not just incompetence that is the problem with these. It's disloyalty to the people that they're supposed to serve, whether it's clerics during the molestation crisis or sex abuse crisis, or any of these politicians, or even universities. How can you? I just don't. I can't fathom working at a university and allowing another professor or instructor, or any employee, to get fired for a controversial view, and that just seems anathema to me. And it should be to them in those positions. That disloyalty to the purpose of the organization is just weird.
There's a really good interview recently, it came out earlier this year, with one of the professors who's now at Hamilton, James Hankins. I might have mentioned this before, and I guess I should mention, I don't think I mentioned this on the podcast, I'm going to be an incoming graduate student with the Hamilton School, PhD in History of Ideas. It's exciting.
That sounds so fake.
No, it's great. It's awesome. It's actually more real than most degrees out there, I think. But this professor, James Hankins, he's coming from Harvard. He's like one of the foremost scholars of Western civilization. Well, he was at Harvard. He'd been at Harvard for like his entire professional career, basically. He founded the E12 Renaissance Library, so translations of like Renaissance texts that would never have been available otherwise with the original text. There's this whole editorial series, brought about by Harvard, and all of these, very many accomplishments. And he's moving from Harvard to Gainesville, Florida, and he talks about this in this interview. He says, well, I just can't teach Western civilization at Harvard anymore. Yeah, right. It's not that there's like this aggressive, right, like you have to stop doing this. They're just not allowing him, right? It's just this sort of quiet behind the scenes of like, well, we're just not going to teach those classes anymore. Yeah. And he's like, well, you're just failing to be a university at that point, right? We're living in this civilization. You won't have classes on this civilization. Everything else is just so far afield. We're just bringing in specialists of everything but the society that we live in.
Yeah, the core.
He says, the only place I can see myself doing that anymore is at the Hamilton School or other like civic centers like this, where they're actually giving a platform. They actually want to, it sounds weird to say like be loyal to, but I think that is what it is, right? You're sort of being loyal to your own civilization. Yeah. And if you're just saying, well, there's no point in teaching anything about that and encouraging students to have some sort of appreciation for it, well, then you are in that civilization, right? And you're just sort of turning your back on it.
Speaking of interviews, I just listened to an interview of Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida.
Yes.
And it's Peter Robinson of the Hoover Institution interviewed him for Uncommon Knowledge, which is a regular podcast. And he's a great interviewer. And Governor DeSantis mentioned the Hamilton Center.
Yeah.
So I thought of you but he also talked about the new College of Florida and his educational reforms and how it was necessary to create the Hamilton Center. And he specifically stated how it was set up so that I guess I don't know if it's the president of Hamilton Center or president of the university or one or the other or both. I forget how he described it, but you didn't need to. They're authorized to make job offers with tenure without faculty senate approval, and that was key to the governor because that's the only way you can bypass the left wing filter that was keeping effective. In either conservative or iconoclast or independent thinking professors from getting hired,
right?
And that's what made that possible.
Yeah. Hamilton's the only school at UF that reports directly to the university president, rather than going through the provost's office and things like that. So there's no bureaucracy above the director of Hamilton; it's just the president.
Yeah. So they basically bypassed the entire bureaucracy. Rather than, because he's trying to do other reforms, and I think there's 10-year reform where I think every 5 years they have to get reviewed. Right, it's not a lifetime appointment, which is necessary. But he did this setup as a parallel to allow for this type of instruction and these type of academic programs concurrently with other reforms. Right. You're not having a fight day after day after day for against the existing structure. You're basically doing a parallel structure at the same time. Yeah, which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting. But back to More.
So we have Governor DeSantis to thank for your appointment.
Yes, exactly, and I will be in the historic first ever cohort of this graduate program because it's starting in the fall. They've never offered the graduate program before, so I'll be in the first ever cohort.
You should go to Tallahassee and tell him thanks.
I might. He's visited campus before.
Oh, has
he broke ground because Hamilton's moving into a new building that they're renovating, so he was on campus for the groundbreaking. And of course, no progress has actually been made on the renovations in the 6 months since that happened. They put up a fence a few weeks ago. Around
probably out to
building.
bid. I mean, those projects take time.
Yeah, no, it's going to take forever. Yeah. They predict it'll be done by winter 27, and that's just not going to happen.
Oh, it could. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so.
Huh. You want to bet?
Not really.
I mean, that's a year and a half.
Yeah,
that's what they're saying. That's
it's doable.
Not terribly. It's not fast. I mean, I'd be interested in how far along they are already. If they already have the architectural drawings, that's taking too long.
Yeah.
But the drawings and the approvals for that take time.
They've had the plans done since before the groundbreaking. They're up on the website. I can show you. It looks beautiful, the renders that they have. They just haven't actually done any work, it seems.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because if you have that all done, I would expect to be done by the end of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see.
Interesting. But I'm not saying it's going to be.
Yes.
But that just my experience with government contracting here.
Yes.
Local.
As interested as I'm sure the audience is on construction plans.
I bet our listener is interested in that.
Maybe. But let's go back to More here. Because he talks about...
I don't know what else we got to say.
I have a couple more points. I like what he says at the bottom of 381, where he says, justice is happiness, happiness is justice. What then is social justice? More condemns impartially Nietzsche's will to power and its opposite, the humanitarian socialistic ideal of absolute equality. Social justice, instead, is such a distribution of power and privilege and of property as the symbol and instrument of these, as at once will satisfy the distinctions of reason among the superior and will not outrage the feelings of the inferior. Giving to each his due, is essentially what he's describing in more words. I thought it was interesting. He talks quite a lot about the importance of property. He says if you do not have private property, then civilization can't last. Right? If you're operating on this principle of, well, everybody just sort of has whatever, then again, you sort of get into that classic problem of what's motivating anybody to do anything. What is sort of creating any sort of structure in the society? There won't be anything because nobody has any reason to do anything if everything is just sort of this weird, completely leveled, static environment.
Well, that's what our founders recognized. And when I was in my youth, I didn't quite get it. But the ability to own property free from the government is essential for individual freedom, I think, and I also like his points about where he says, for the worst thing which can happen to law is an overextension, its expansion to fields in which cannot be competent, then disrespect for law and all its capacities will become general. And I've often complained about this, the over criminalization of everything in American society. And I think we've seen the fruits of that, and we're still seeing the fruits of that with the Trump administration, where you can literally name the man and then find the crime, because there's too many crimes, especially at the federal level. It should be very limited there. But I often say, I'm a municipal prosecutor for traffic tickets and that kind of stuff in one of my professional capacities. But I think it's pretty true that I can't drive from here to another part of the county without committing some sort of traffic violation, no matter how diligent I am. And so so there should be a certain amount of discretion about enforcement. But if you're just at a barbecue or something, and you want to get people really talking, start off with a complaint about, I got pulled over by this jerk cop. And then before you know it, everybody will share a story about getting pulled over by this different jerk cop. It'll turn out that 90% of the stories are complete BS. And there people are driving 100 miles per hour in a school zone. But there's a sense that it's like there's just too much. And it creates this disrespect for the law, which he points out, when it was almost lawless compared to now. I mean, if you're talking about the 19-teens, there's almost no law compared to what we have now. Right. I mean, now there's a law about everything and criminalizing everything. Yeah. Yes. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
So he recognized that early on.
Yeah. I really have one more point on More, and that's sort of at the top of 385, because he is a believing Christian, kind of different from a lot of these people, where he says at the top of 385, he says, belief in the incarnation is in conformity with reason. For the supernatural, if it is to be apprehended clearly by man, must make itself felt in natural forms. And historical evidences for the powers of Christ carry overwhelming conviction. At least of Christianity, whatever may be said of other forms of faith, he wrote later in the Catholic faith, one thing is certain, that it depends upon revelation, that without revelation, the belief of the Christian is a baseless assumption. He says, well, it's all reasonable, right? It's not just a suspension of reason in your intellect. He says, well, this is just in accord with what we know about things. He says it's just a very reasonable thing to be a Christian. It's very reasonable to have this belief in the spiritual and in God and in Christ. And I like that.
Yes. Excellent.
Moving on to George Santayana.
Yeah, Santayana's a great guitar player.
You have made that joke, I think, 5 times since...
Only once on the show.
Only once on the show, but many more times to me.
I like that one song with Rob Thomas. Wasn't he from Three Doors Down?
I don't know.
Or is it... what's that other group that always confused Three Doors Down? Everybody confuses Three Doors Down. Matchbox 20. He was actually with Matchbox 20. I said the wrong group.
Oh, really?
Do you know the song I'm talking about?
I have no idea.
Santana's best-selling song with lead singer, guest singer, Rob Thomas.
I don't know.
Of Matchbox 20 fame. Do you know Matchbox 20?
I really don't. No. Was it an early song for Santana or is it a later song?
Later.
Okay. Well,
much later.
Yeah.
Yes.
I only have like the early
2000s.
Albums. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is he still alive?
I don't know. He seems like he might be, but I don't know.
If he is, he's old.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
Yeah, George Santayana, moving on from Santana, who's not Santana. He's an interesting guy. I still enjoyed reading about him. You didn't really like him, as you mentioned earlier. Yes. But yeah, he says on 387, sort of towards the top, he says, after the theistic humanism of Babbitt and More, the materialism of Santayana may seem a weakening of the conservative fiber.
That's when I lost interest when I read that line.
Yeah. So it's like a postscript to Henry Adams. It says, yet Santayana's metaphysics, though it odds with dualism, repudiates the common sort of mechanism, exposes the egoism of the idealists, and with a good-natured nudge consigns James's pragmatism to the nursery. So he's kind of, from within the sort of general materialist perspective, critiquing, those who he thinks go too far. So there's some value in that, I think.
Okay. I just couldn't get into this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I read it. I don't think I even took any notes for like pages on end.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I just, I mean, he does. I agree with his comments about the graduated income tax and the inheritance tax, because it was this era that the income tax was first adopted as a temporary tax in 1919 or
It was early,
1918?
yeah.
And this is a one-time deal, a millionaire's tax.
Yeah.
We've been paying taxes ever since.
Exactly. I do like what he says at the very bottom of 389 to 390. He says, this is no perversion of liberalism, talking about this sort of, socialistic, philanthropic sort of idea. He says, this is no perversion of liberalism, but simply its natural progression. Liberalism, fortunately, has been always a secondary state, living like a saprophyte on the tissue of a previous age, inheriting its monuments, feelings, and social hierarchy. Liberalism does not go very deep, and is an adventitious principle, a mere loosening of an older structure. Manifestly, in our time, it is simply a transition from Christendom, aristocracy, and family economy to an overwhelming utilitarian collectivism. And I think that's very true. And I think that kind of goes to what we were talking about, very early in this chapter, that liberalism doesn't really have a good core set of beliefs. Right? It has that idea of, sort of freedom as sort of the ultimate goal. But liberalism has been just so, worked to fit every single sort of popular thing that can be imagined that's sort of left of center, that it doesn't really go very deep in its actual philosophical principles, right? Such that, anybody can call themselves a liberal and just sort of believe anything.
Isn't he talking about classical liberalism, though? Like libertarianism? Or no? Am I missing that?
I mean, I think he is to an extent, but I think they're related.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Libertinism.
Yeah.
Almost.
Libertinism, yeah.
Yeah, because he's talking about industrial liberalism and basically laissez-faire and all that.
Right.
Yeah, it's almost like, yeah, you're right. It's almost like not a core belief, like an affirmative philosophy.
It's negative,
just a negative philosophy.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it can be whatever it needs to be at any given time, but it doesn't really have any depth to it. And I think that's exactly right. I think that's why it will ultimately sort of fade away to some extent, or it'll just be a completely different liberalism. It won't be the same liberalism.
Well, now that pot's legal, they don't have anything to fight for.
That's true. Now they've won. They get to sit at home all day and smoke pot.
I wonder that obviously the tax revenue is not as much as they thought it was going to be, but I wonder, what the long-term effects of that are going to be.
I do like what he says. He says, one political tendency kindled my wrath.
Where are you at?
I'm on 391. It says, one political tendency kindled my wrath. It was precisely the tendency of industrial liberalism to level down all civilizations to a single cheap and dreary pattern. A little bit later, it says, when all are uniform, the individuality of each unit is numerical only. Sort of more of the same sort of idea that we're talking about. I really like that idea that in this sort of very economic liberal society, the individualism that we used to see just doesn't exist, right? You're individual only numerically. You are distinct from one other person because you are a distinct person. There's no distinct qualities about you, one from the other. Yes. At least as you were treated, sort of the economic liberal idea.
I think I made a mistake. It wasn't Santana that was talking about the income tax. That was the author summarizing all these thinkers and all the issues that were going on in the day, which is 395. So I was getting ahead of myself. Sorry about that. I apologize to the listener.
Yeah, I don't have too much else to say about Santayana. I think he has some interesting thoughts, especially talking about sort of the collapse of liberalism and sort of the shallowness of it. But you clearly want to move on from Santayana.
Well, I mean, you can talk all you want. I just didn't think there's...
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't the most interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, it wasn't anything,
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
sorry to bring it down.
Yes, no, that's all right.
We can go to the final section where I get angry with him talking about the mediocrity of Coolidge. What is this problem with Coolidge? That's on the top of page 397.
Yeah, I don't know what his deal is.
The shoddiness of Harding, the mediocrity of Coolidge, and the decent bewilderment of Hoover. Okay.
Yeah. I do like how he concludes. He says, confronting the dangers of a corroding imperialism more ominous even than those the Romans failed to resist after they had crushed Macedonia, America in victory needed a genuine conservatism more than ever before in her history to redeem her from ungoverned will and appetite. In the humanistic discipline of Babbitt and the theistic elevation of More and the urbane humility of Santayana, the spirit of such a conservatism subsists. May these ideas be transmitted to the great uneasy mass of the American people who vote and fight and struggle over the dollar, If not, the infinitely repressive and monotonous future domination sketched by Santayana may impend, whether called communism or the American way of life. The new American conservative must accomplish something more difficult than chastening Russia. He must chasten himself. I thought that was very true. I think that there is a lot of truth in that statement, that it does come down to, well, no, you have to live this out individually. You can sort of yell at all of the current events in the world, but if you're not actually doing anything to improve yourself, well, then nothing's going to happen. You're just going to find more problems to yell at.
Yeah, I guess, I agree with that. But I was a little put off by his criticism of the new imperialism, expansion of the United States. Then he talks about the United States found itself embarrassed, to put the matter mildly, when the Second World War was won at the expense of Hiroshima and Nagasaki and all that meant to the American conscience, one at the expense of consuming centralization at home, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. I mean, I think that's cheap moralizing, personally, because, expense of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, really? I mean, how many people did they murder? And when were they ever going to stop? I don't know. I'm whatever. I thought that was just kind of cheap shots at the United States.
Yeah, fair enough.
Ending World War II. And, we didn't have to drop those bombs. They could have stopped. They could have surrendered. They certainly could have surrendered after the first one. And you think you would have. Yeah. They just, they didn't really have a concept of what nuking was. Well, they did immediately after Hiroshima. And so I blame Japan 100% for the nuking in Nagasaki. Yeah. It's like, you got hit with that and you didn't say, uncle. I mean, how many bombs, what if they didn't surrender after Nagasaki? I mean, how many, I don't know how many we had.
We only had the 2.
Yeah. So we would have to take all that. All right, well, I guess we'll have to keep building these damn things. Anyway.
Yes. Well, what did you think of the chapter as a whole?
Well, that's the only chapter I'm really critical of the author.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because I think he's got a lot of cheap criticisms of really of America. Yeah, and American. I don't understand why his problems with Coolidge are. Yeah.
I mean, I think that was just one line in the whole chapter. What about the rest of the chapter?
Well, don't you ever get that sense? Like if you're talking to somebody and they say one thing,
I agree. And it sort of sours.
They can be really brilliant, but they say one thing, and you're like, "Huh? Yeah, exactly." Yeah. You might say it out loud, "Huh?" Yeah.
No, that definitely happens. I agree.
And of course, it happens to me all the time.
Yes, well,
that's no surprise. That's just the nature of my personality, maybe. But but I don't want to waste my time with And I think I've mentioned I've started to read a couple books, and like if I read the introduction and they seem biased or inaccurate early on, I'm just done. I'm just not going to spend the time to finish it, which I probably shouldn't do. But unless it's like a classic, if it's a classic that I would benefit from knowing it because other people know the book too, I'll read. I'll power through.
But if it's some book written in the past 10 years,
if it's a book I'm interested in the subject, but nobody else is, I'm not going to finish it because. And so I was like, it's a good thing that stuff wasn't in the first chapter because I would have been angry the entire season.
Yes, no, I'm well aware. Yes. Well, that's good.
What do you think?
I enjoyed the chapter. Yeah, I enjoyed the chapter. I thought especially the first 2 were very good.
Yes. A little long-winded.
Yes. I really enjoyed Paul Elmer More. I'd never heard of the guy before this, but I thought he was interesting. I'll just see if I could find some of his books somewhere.
I thought the chapter could have been half the length, too. There's a lot.
Yeah. That is true. Okay. That is true. Well, we have only one more chapter to go, so I'll have to.
That will be the penultimate.
Yes. No, that'll be the ultimate chapter. I'll have to come up with some book ideas, I suppose.
Yeah, it's your turn, right? Yeah.
And I guess we might not be able to do the podcast for about 6 weeks when I'm out in D.C.
Yes.
Because I'm not
we're not
hauling all the equipment out there.
For sure.
Yes. So we might have to start season 15, maybe after I come back from DC.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Probably best.
We'll have plenty.
Otherwise, we'll have like one episode and then 6 weeks.
We could do like a one-off.
We could.
Yeah. Yes. So if anybody has any ideas, what do you want Mark Bishop or Adam Bishop to rant about. Just a random topic.
Huh, that's a good idea.
Or you can come up with a random topic. Or maybe I should come up with a random topic that I want you to rant about.
That's a good idea. You go on a lot of rants. I feel like if you should come up with something
for you to rant
about. You
think
I would rant about.
Yeah, see, I don't want you to rant. Because rants, I think, are borderline uncontrolled.
Okay.
And I always have a worry that somehow this podcast will hurt you. Like people will search it and say, oh, he said this bad thing. And so I want you to be very reserved and in control.
Well, I won't say any bad things.
Well, you say that. But you're still my son. If I pick the right subject, maybe or the wrong subject. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we'll think on that. We have one more chapter of this, and then.
I certainly he's maybe not a rant, maybe something you're passionate about.
Yes,
that'd be a better way to put it. Yes, good idea.
All right. Well, now I'll think about a book for later in the summer.
Yes.
All right. Well, in that case, this has been season 14, episode 12 of Unlimited Opinions. I have been Adam Bishop.
I'm still Mark Bishop.
You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at ULMTD Opinions.